It wasn't until he got in my face that there was close proximity. During the investigation, they asked, is it possible that when Oborski and I were behind the truck, if he was trying to explain the situation to me? I asked why he was trying to explain anything to me. The internal affairs sergeant responded, he's doing his job. So why so defensive of a cop who committed a crime that night? And is it the job of the cop to explain anything to me? I don't think so. Certainly not his job to assault me. Okay, and then on the most serious claim, in my case, where Oborski files a false charge against me, in the report, they respond to this entire claim with this one line. Oborski states, just because he spit in my face, which is captured on the audio but not the video. I mean, this is pretty remarkable, right? This is a felony that carries 2 to 10 years that Oborski maliciously filed, in an intent to destroy my life for contempt of cop because I didn't bow down to him quickly enough, right? And he's claiming that I spit on him. They just spent all this time trying to justify, that I was escalating my voice, all these things, for what he did to come over near me and stuff. And then when it comes to his fraudulent claim of spitting, they just dismiss it. Well, Oborski said that you spit in his face, and that's it. Is that the type of investigation
I'm sorry.
we want?
You said that very quickly. Will you say that one more time? I want to make sure I heard what you just said.
There was one line, and I don't know how it was typed out, but there was one line in the report which addressed the claim that I spit in Oborski's face, and they just said, well, Oborski states because he just spit in my face, which is captured on the audio but not the video. That's it. His word that I spit in his face at that moment was enough for them to dismiss that claim, despite all the evidence, audio, video, and witness testimony. Of course, they didn't interview the witnesses, which is a problem.
And I want to make sure I'm understanding this. Are you saying that that claim was dismissed?
It was unfounded.
Unfounded. Thank you.
Unfounded. I'm sorry.
I'm asking for clarity. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Next, so clearly there's issues with the investigation, as I just laid out. Another problem is they didn't interview key witnesses. Joshua, the employee at the 7-Eleven that night. Somehow I got his information, but these guys didn't interview him. Elizabeth Mahoney, the one who tried to walk up to my friend Ben to give him her information because she was a witness that night, and the cops interfered and told him to sit down or he was going to get arrested. She was never interviewed by Internal Affairs. And then Carlos Amador, who had the best vantage point of anyone who is not involved in the situation, i.e. me, my passenger, or the 2 female victims that night. He had a better view of what happened than Snyder did. He wasn't interviewed. Somehow Fox 7 had time to interview him, but Internal Affairs didn't. So clearly this was a terrible investigation by Internal Affairs. The bias and selective reporting of facts and the outright distortions call into serious question any and all investigations by Internal Affairs. You can go ahead and claim that someone messes up once here, once there. Maybe it was, they overlooked something. Maybe it's just incompetence, But when you have all this evidence, and it's so crystal clear that these 2 cops committed crimes, and there's absolutely nothing except for the lies of 2 cops who are proven to be liars in their own testimony, in their own affidavits. If you can come away from that with the conclusion that there was no policy, nothing wrong, everything's cool, just go home, I mean, you have to be crazy to think that it's not incompetence, it's not a bad investigation, it's actually worse than that, it's corruption, okay? It is a situation where we have unethical people who are in the Internal Affairs Department, and they're covering for the acts of criminal cops. Now, I'm an extremely fortunate person. I know that I'm not going to get convicted on this. There's just so much evidence that proves that the cops are lying. I have witnesses, I have video, I have audio. However, if I did not have that, if witnesses did not step forward, if there wasn't a 7-Eleven video, and if the cops somehow lost their dash cam audio, and if there wasn't a guy across the street, and if I wasn't a West Point, Stanford graduate, war veteran who's never been arrested, never had a drug offense, never done anything wrong, and wasn't black or Hispanic on that night, my life would have been destroyed. And right now, we have the opportunity to send 2 cops packing, send them to prison, and have things change here in the city of Austin so we start protecting the people that need protecting. You know, the cops are actually the criminal. Not all cops, but the cops in this town are criminals, you know, that are preying on the people of Austin. And we need to do something about it. So, you know, what are the outcomes that I hope to see reality? I know that you guys are extremely limited in your power to do things. And unfortunately, that's the way that the system's set up. But what I would like to see become reality is I would like a new external investigation. There's no question in my mind, or I presume in the mind of any of you, or any objective, logical, reasonable, moral person, that there should be a new investigation commissioned by the city, and the investigation should be external because internal affairs cannot be trusted with these investigations. Aborski and Snyder should be fired. I recommend that they get fired. I hope that you guys too. Not suspended with pay, not suspended without pay, not transferred to desk duty. These 2 cops abused their authority on violently assaulting 2 peaceful citizens who committed no crime, no offense, didn't even break city ordinances. And, you know, they assaulted a woman, a mother, you know, for telling her friend she didn't have to submit to a breathalyzer and not getting off the phone quickly enough. They violently assaulted her. They arrested her under the bogus charge of PI. And then when she came out to the media 7 days later or so, they then turned around and filed 2 new charges just as a punitive measure, just to say, we can do this, we're going to make your life hell. And they charged her with disobeying a public official and resisting arrest. You know, and she's the victim of violence. It's just terrible. And then they try to cover up the crime against me by throwing a felony at me that carries 2 to 10 years. These guys cannot be trusted with badges and guns. They need to be off the streets. And that's where my 3rd recommendation comes in. And I hope the DA, Acevedo, whoever can make this happen, you know, they need to be charged with crimes, not just fired. You know? These guys are criminals. They're criminals, and they need to be taken off the street for the safety of the people. And we need good cops to stand up to these bad cops and start taking these guys in for their crimes and not just turning a blind eye. And then finally, I would like to recommend that, I know I'm over time, but I answered a question, so hopefully it's not a big deal. I hope that you guys...
I haven't heard the buzzer yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope that you guys propose numerous policy recommendations. You know, I don't know that policy is the overarching problem here. I mean, I imagine it's probably a policy violation to assault a peaceful citizen for not getting off her phone quickly enough, right? And I assume it's probably a policy violation to throw numerous false charges at a victim of police violence in order to shut them up or to punish them. But if the unfounded claims that Internal Affairs came up with, you know, if that means that the conduct of these 2 individuals, you know, didn't break policy, then we certainly need new policy. Like, how about a policy against putting women who have broken no law into torture moves? That would be a really good policy that APD could adopt. I'm going to wrap up here. This is my last sentence. Right now, there's a serious issue within the Austin Police Department. They are corrupt. They use their power to assault and victimize peaceful citizens, and when those peaceful citizens have the audacity to stand up for their civil liberties, their civil rights, then they get victimized again and again and again. And I really hope that you guys will come down very hard on these guys. We're lucky that no one died this time, but you know, if we allow this culture to continue, it's only a matter of time before we have more and more people who end up dead, not just one every year. Thank you.
Mr. Buehler, thank you. Do I have any questions?
I just had one. Did you say that the Internal Affairs didn't interview your passenger?
They did interview my passenger. They just happened to not interview the 2 nearest witnesses who weren't involved in either car.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I will turn to the other folks who have signed up, and I noticed that there were people who came in during the middle of Mr. Buehler's